Well, welcome back, everyone. And today I am thrilled again to be speaking with my good friend, Karen Baines, conscious wealth mentor. She is an absolutely extraordinary human being. And if you have not come into her orbit before now, this is going to be a treat for you. She is one of the most luminous people I know. That's a word I always use to describe you, Karen, because I feel like it's the best word. You are just so bright and sparkly, and you have such an amazing insight into money and how we perceive money, how we use money, and the energetics of money. We're going to dive into all that shortly. But welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Kip. It's really lovely to see you. It's been too long.
It has. It really
It's been a
has.
while. Took a
And
beat.
I was thinking before, as I was preparing for this interview today, I was just thinking about, it's been a while since we spoke last, since our last podcast episode together. And things have certainly changed. The whole global kind of geopolitical / financial picture has shifted. Here in Canada, for example, our federal government just delivered its budget, and it's a real austerity budget. I think people are feeling a lot more financial uncertainty, perhaps even, I might say, precariousness than they have been prior to that over the last few years anyway. I don't know what it's like in your area, but I've certainly noticed it. So I want to talk to you. This is a really well-timed conversation because I think that you're going to be able to provide reassurance to people and give them some really concrete ways that they can deal with what's happening without panicking and with just feeling like steady as we go kind of thing. So I'm curious to know, just to start off, where do you see the real source? Because certainly everyone's feeling these external pressures. Do you feel that's the real source of the sense of not enough that people are experiencing with respect to money? Is it actually external, or would you say it's really more an internal situation that needs to be addressed?
I think that what has happened is essentially not unlike what happened to us all during COVID, which is we lost our freedom. And I think that what is happening is that individuals are feeling very contracted and they're in fear and there's not enough, and or at least that they believe there's not enough, and it's all very and they're making choices from that place. And then the collective consciousness, every time a human being adds a frequency to the planet, that becomes part of the collective consciousness, and at some point the balance is going to shift so that the collective consciousness contracts as well. And as I said, I think the financial side of what is going on in the world at the moment is just reflecting multiple individual choices, and the people that are being affected by that are the ones that are available for that frequency, which probably sounds I think probably we need to go a little bit further into the conversation on what it is I teach and what it is I do for people to actually really understand what I mean by that. It all comes down to the energy of obligation, I believe.
Yeah, and that's the question that was coming up as I was listening to you, because you said how individually we're contributing our personal frequencies to this collective. Could you talk a little bit more about that? So this whole idea
Yeah,
about the energetics of money.
yeah, I mean, maybe I'll bring it back to me myself, first of all. And what I'm going to say may come across as a bit controversial, and that's okay. I don't mind if people don't agree with me. But I've been going through some I've had some interesting conversations myself recently with I've got 5 kids. My youngest is 20. And I've had some interesting conversations with him and his older brother, who is 35 now. And one of the reasons the conversation has been interesting is because I've been accused by my youngest son of being irresponsible. And my other son, I can't remember what he said in the end, but our views are very different. His name is Tony. He actually lives in China. He emigrated to China over 10 years ago. He married a lovely girl from China and emigrated, and that's where he is with my grandchildren. And I was over there about a month ago. And Tony keeps very abreast of what's going on in his homeland in the UK, and he's got very strong views about things, and he's very abreast of politics, and he doesn't get to speak to many people about it. And then I go over there and I'm a soundboard for all his ideas and his opinions, and I just let him talk because honestly, the only way I really know what's going on in the world is from my clients. I don't listen to the news. I don't read newspapers. I'm not on social media. I completely steer clear of all of that.
And why? Can you speak a little bit
And
about why?
the reason is because it can take you, it takes you off track. It takes you out of your own lane. It is a lot of what is in the media is designed to scaremonger. It is. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that people aren't in hardship at the moment, that there aren't terrible things, frightening things going on, that people aren't in hardship, that money isn't scarce for people. I'm not saying that at all. I know that that is true for a lot of people. But what I also know is that the media, the news will make sure that you hear the worst case scenarios. And it will also hide things from you, depending on what country you're in, that they don't want you to know about. Right? So I find that with the work that I do, the best thing for me to do is I call it staying in my own lane. I focus on myself and I focus on my alignment. I work with my clients and I show them how to stay in alignment themselves. And I do suggest very strongly to my clients to really not engage or engage as little as possible with, what's going on in the world. Because as soon as you start buying into the fear and the lack, then the next step from that is you're likely to start making choices from there. And as soon as you actually start making choices from there, then you're really in trouble, because then you're broadcasting that lack, that fear. And the perfect example of this for me was actually when I was in China. Like I said, it was about a month ago now. And my son was talking to me about all the things that are going on, and I was just listening to him. I wasn't airing my views. Every now and again, he would say something that would go completely against my own personal philosophy, and I would feel that I really had to speak up. But generally speaking, I was there to spend time with one of the men on this planet that I love more than anything. So I was happy to just sit there and just be in his presence and let him talk about what he wanted to talk about. And the thing about him as well is that I realized while I was over there this time around was that he actually does like to poke a bear. So if he sees any kind of weakness or any kind of, like, I think that if he went to university, he would have been a great debater. Just because he likes to orchestrate a conversation. And I think when he didn't get out of his mum what he wanted to get out of her, he'd just poke her a little bit and see what so there's a lot of that going on as well. But what I really noticed was I was there for 2 weeks and I learned more about what was going on in the UK from him than actually living in the UK the week before, because I don't pay any attention to any of it.
And what was
And
the impact on that learning in you? Did you feel did you feel like, oh, I wish maybe I hadn't had that conversation with him?
well,
Or
no, I didn't begrudge I wasn't concerned about the conversation, but what I was going to say to you was what I realized that was happening was I started getting worried.
Mm.
I actually found myself going to bed at night worrying that, well, where are my clients going to come from then if there's no money? If the country's going to be bankrupt in so and so and so. All these things that he'd been saying, and I was buying into it. My ego was doing a total number on me. And I was listening to all this stuff and believing it. And I really had to pull myself up and have a serious word with myself. I mean, and as soon as I did that, I felt better and I was all right. And I think it was at that point that maybe a couple of the conversations we had after that, I kind of put my own personal views across to him and called him out when I was like, well, you know what, Tone, I'm not really, I disagree, you know, not to a point where we would argue, but where he knew that there wasn't going to be anything that he could say to actually get what he wanted from me, whatever that was. But what I really became aware of, the biggest thing for me there, was how easy it is to get sucked into that. And knowing what it's like for people who have got, they've got their radios on in their cars, they're listening to podcasts, they're watching the TV, they're watching the news. I mean, like I say, I pick things up from, like, I work globally. Not many of my clients are actually in the UK. The majority of my clients are stateside. And I hear a lot of stuff. Probably hear more truthful stuff that comes from my clients than actually comes from the British media about what's happening in the States. So the only information I get is really from my clients, and occasionally my husband will let something slip because he's very much on top of what's going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't believe how quickly I slid into this fear and a belief system that there wasn't enough and that my business might go bankrupt or something. And it's
And
absolutely ridiculous.
what a good kind of a reset, because you've shared this, because I think it's really helpful for people, for someone like you, this is the work you do with
Yeah,
clients. You help
yeah,
them energetically, and you have an array of tools and strategies that you share with them, you help them with, and that work because you've used them on yourself, and you
yeah,
still got kind of caught in this downward
yeah,
spire energetically. Then you touched on this, but the if you zoom out, the meta view of that is that, well, if I'm experiencing this, my potential
exactly.
clients will be. So I get to pay attention to this because I've got a better understanding of how awful it can feel for others. So thank you for sharing that. And I'd really love to know if you can share with us how did you turn that around? So what did you say to yourself? What were you thinking that said, okay, enough?
Oh,
How do you
well,
reset?
I mean, to reset, I lent on, I mean, I kind of lent on my tools, really.
Mm,
I reminded myself that what I tell my clients is that, you create your own economy, that money is a happy byproduct of alignment, that alignment happens when when you set an intention and you create the congruent energetic conditions to make that happen, and that universal law and alignment transcend everything. They transcend politics, it transcends economy. Like, universal law transcends everything. And I work with universal law and I teach my clients how to do that too. And my bank account and my business is doing very, very well, despite what everybody around me says is happening in the world. I've got clients who are giving me great testimonials whose businesses are doing very, very well. So I know, and I know that there is money out there. Of course, there's money out there. There's more money out there probably than there ever has been, because there are more people out there. And there are more people that are designed to be lights in the world, as in, like, you know, healers and people like me, like, that work with, you know, that spit more, like, more of a spiritual side of the way the world works. You know, just because the dark side, if you like, seems to be very dark and very loud at the moment, it doesn't have to be. I literally had a conversation with somebody yesterday or the day before who is getting very caught up in what's going on in the States at the moment. And that is naturally going to happen because of the job she does. She works in the care, like in healthcare. And I know there's a lot going on in the States at the moment that is having a significant effect on the healthcare system. And I know all this from her. I don't know this from the media. I know this from her. And this woman is in the trenches. She's in the trenches day in, day out with patients, with you know, all the red tape that goes with everything that's going on. And I've been working with her for about 6 months. And every time I speak to her, it feels like we're putting out fires because she's so immersed in this. She not watching the news isn't gonna keep her out of it, because it's partly what she does for a job, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So she sees the impact every minute of every day. And I was literally talking to her about this, and I said to her at the time, because you're so immersed in this, you must use the one of the tools that I've taught you to help you transcend out of this whenever you can, because ultimately it will take you down with it if you let it, but it doesn't have to be your truth.
Right.
And the example that I gave to her was, if you were working with cancer patients, with terminal cancer patients every minute of every day, it would not mean that you were going to get cancer and you were going to die. Just because you are part of a situation that you can see affecting all of these people does not mean that it's your truth. Just because it's theirs does not make it your truth. And actually, if you can transcend it and kind of switch over, like empower yourself again, remember how powerful you are and empower yourself again, and stay in the light, and use your powerful questions, use your intention setting, create your congruent conditions, all the things that, you know, that go with working with alignment. If you do that, that becomes the energy, that becomes the frequency that you add to the planet, instead of the fear and the lack and the anxiety and all the pain and all the suffering and all the things that she's seeing every minute of every day that she's buying into. Like I said, I'm not saying for 1 minute that this isn't happening out there. I'm not in denial. I just know that by being part of that, it's just like having a set of scales. If you become part of that, you're weighing that, like you're keeping that heavy vibration in place.
Right.
Whereas if you stay in the light and you focus on alignment, and alignment is you do you, it's focusing on yourself and navigating your life for the best life possible because you're designed to create abundance, and staying in your own lane is part of that. Understanding what alignment is for you so that you become a vibrational match for abundance, wealth, whatever that looks like. Like I said, there are people out there, multi-billionaires. There's plenty of money out there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important distinction, that no matter what's going on globally at the macro level,
Yeah,
there are still loads of people making money, loads of people living in abundance.
exactly. And
And
anyone can be one of those people.
mhm,
Anyone listening right now can make a new choice today to step into alignment and start to see how their lives start to change. And it's not going to happen overnight. I'm not saying that there aren't miracles. The universe is perfectly capable of delivering anyone a miracle. If they become a vibrational match for that, then absolutely. But what I can say without any doubt whatsoever is the vibrational shift that is available for any human being in a 3 to 5 month period is real. And anybody can, you can change your life. You can really change what your life looks like in a 3 to 5 month period. Absolutely, you can. I've seen it happen a million times, and I do it every 3 to 5 months myself.
mhm. Yes, I think maybe the part about this conversation, I love this conversation. I could talk to you all day long about this. The part that may be a little bit challenging for people to understand, if this is new, the first time they're
Yeah.
hearing money discussed in this way. I remember the first time I heard you talking about money this way years ago, I was like, kind of felt like my brain was flipping inside my head a little bit. But you talk a lot about, the kind of energy, the energetic frequency that we're putting out there. And so it's it it's connected to the way we're thinking about things. So I know you talk, for example, about the not so fab four, the guilt,
Mm.
resentment, obligation, sacrifice. Those are four energetic levels. And of course, this all relates to a kind of quantum understanding of the whole universe, which is that everything is energy at a basic level. And so even the thoughts we think, and anytime we're acting or thinking out of guilt, obligation, sacrifice, or resentment, those are very low vibrational kinds of energy. And so when you talk about alignment and energetic match, is it that wherever we're kind of vibrating energetically, in a sense, based on our thoughts and the way we perceive the world and the actions that we take, the people we surround ourselves with, even what's in our physical environment, that all contributes. It will create a vibrational frequency in us. We project it, and then we become a match for anything out there that is at that same frequency level. So
Yeah.
what you're talking about with respect to alignment, I mean, we are always in alignment, aren't we? There's
We're
really
always
no
in
such
alignment
thing.
with something. We're
Yeah.
always in alignment with something.
Yeah. So
You know?
people talk about being out of alignment. It's not a kind of general thing. It's just they're out of alignment with a specific goal or goal state they want. We are always in alignment with something. And so
Yeah.
if in our lives we're not attracting to ourselves, we're not experiencing things the way we want to, if things aren't as good as we want them to be, it's because we are functioning at a particular energetic level that is bringing those less desirable things into our lives. So would you say, a first step, I heard you use the word choice a little while ago. Is that it? Is it just a matter of I'm making a decision that I want something different? Is that where it begins, or what would you say?
No, no, actually, it's not a decision. A decision and a choice is very different from the work, the way that I work in the world, and the way that I teach my clients. Like, you can make a decision about anything. A decision is a thought. Your thoughts don't actually affect anything. Your thoughts don't change anything. Like, I could sit here right now and I could think to myself, okay, what do I want for dinner tonight? I know I have spaghetti bolognese. Oh, hang on a minute. I haven't got any spaghetti in the fridge. I don't think I've got any tomatoes. All right then. And then I don't do anything about it. I've made a decision that I want spaghetti bolognese, But unless I physically get off my butt and walk down the road and go to the store and buy myself some tomatoes and some spaghetti bolognese is not going to magically show up on my table. Even though I made the decision that that's what I wanted. Does
Right.
not work like that. You cannot think things into form. Thoughts do not become things. And again, I know that's controversial, but it's not true. Now, I'm not saying that somewhere in the world there are mystics that aren't capable of creating a thought pattern that will create a physical thing. The chances are there are, but I'm telling you now, they're not my clients. They're not the people that I know and the people that I'm designed to work with, and I'm not one of them. I cannot decide I want spaghetti bolognese and then go downstairs and find a plate of spaghetti bolognese just magically appear on the table, even though I made a decision about it. I have to make the choice, and the choice is the action step. And that's why alignment is such a wonderful thing to work with, because it doesn't actually matter how you feel or the thoughts that you think. As long as you make the aligned choices, things will change, because
So
it's the
let's,
choice that creates the frequency, and the
right.
frequency is the language of the universe.
Okay. So let's put that in a kind of concrete example with money.
Yes.
I'm getting hungry thinking about spaghetti bolognese, but let's circle back to money. um, because my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, is that our thoughts contribute. For example, if I'm always thinking negatively, if I'm watching the news, and I'm seeing all these financial challenges that people are facing, coming from different directions, and if I'm thinking all day long, oh, this is a terrible time in the economy, this is a terrible time to be trying to earn money, it's a terrible time to be an entrepreneur, those thoughts are certainly not gonna be contributing to an elevated vibrational frequency. However, what you're saying, I think, is that where the power comes and where we actually get ourselves into alignment is when we take an action of some kind.
So yeah. So
That is,
it's like when the fear, and I mean, I don't want anybody to be unhappy. Let's get this clear. I don't want anybody to be sitting there thinking, oh my God, the economy is terrible, people are starving. I don't want any of that. I don't want my clients getting on calls with me afraid and unhappy and miserable. I don't want that. Nobody wants that for anybody. And I don't want that. And I don't want to feel like that. But the fact of the matter is, it's okay if you feel like that. You're not creating anything when you're feeling like that. Your thoughts and your feelings are your guidance system. They are your inner GPS. They are your human translation so that you can make aligned choices to change the thoughts and feelings by, like, your thoughts and feelings they're coming from your soul that is broadcasting to you that there is something really wrong in your world and you need to do something to change it. And your human translation of what your soul is telling you, I mean, remember, your soul is the infinite part of you. Like the infinite part of you, it's a piece of the universe, and you're in a co-collaboration with your soul and the universe every minute of every day of your life. That's how you're creating. Okay, so whenever you want something, whenever you desire something, that is a signal that it's available for you, or you wouldn't want it. And that signal is coming from your soul. Now, you think it's you, but it's not. You're a human being, and that is just how you translate what your soul is guiding you towards. So if you want something, it's absolutely available to you, otherwise you wouldn't want it. That would be the sickest universal joke in the world. I mean, it just would be gross. So that's not a thing. So if you want something, it's available. And secondly, the next steps to getting there are available. It is a direct communication from your soul to move into action, to align yourself with making that thing that you desire a reality. Now, when you're thinking when you're thinking miserable thoughts and you're feeling miserable, that is your soul's way of saying, we're miserable. Let's go and do something that makes us happy. But when you get into that space and when you don't realize that that's what's happening, you just assume you're human. We're not human. We're an infinite being in a body that we're incredibly powerful. We create. That is what we're designed to do. Manifesting is our superpower. And I don't like using that word because I believe that it puts manifesting in a category of only available for the chosen few, when actually everybody is manifesting every minute of every day. And that's happening through the process of choice and consequence. But the choices happen at a grounded, practical level. Your thoughts and the feelings are for you. Your thoughts and the feelings are for you to let you know that there is something off in your life and you can change it. And all you need to do is go and do something that feels better than what you're feeling right now. But very often, when you're caught up in the economy is this and there's no money and blah, 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 you act on it. You act on that. That's the choice you make. So you might go and take all your money out of the bank because you think that there's going to be a run on the bank. You might go and buy all the toilet rolls in the store because there's a pandemic, so there's no toilet rolls for anybody else. You know, you're acting on your fear. And when you're doing that, that's when you're contributing to the frequency of the planet.
Right.
And then you're broadcasting energetically the fear. And then the universe reacts to the fear that you're broadcasting, and it reacts with yes, because that's its job. And it'll bring you more reasons to be afraid. And that's where the not so fab four that you mention, that I talk about so often, come into effect. Obligation being the big bully brother of the not so fab four. And the one that I genuinely believe is how we ended up with a global pandemic and how we've ended up with so much dark stuff going on in the world at the moment. This is just the next thing, you know, but it all comes down to a collective consciousness being created by people living lives of obligation, doing things they feel that they've got to do every minute of every day, instead of actually making choices that are right for them, that make them happy, that make them feel good.
It seems like a kind of default pattern for many people when they're experiencing some fear, and we will keep this connected to money. If they're experiencing fear around money, so that now they're living in lack and scarcity, making choices based on that and acting on that. That tends to be the way people, okay, there's financial uncertainty, so I'm going to hold on to my money. I'm not going to spend as much. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to, grip it more tightly. It's a very contracted way of living. And I'm guessing that it's kind of the opposite to what we should actually be doing. Now, not to say that you spend wildly, that's not a good choice either, but the idea of holding on to what you have out of fear is not going to get you the result you want, which is financial security or financial abundance. And I think so. How can a person, where that's kind of been the default reaction, and you can understand it on an intellectual level why we do that, and that's the ego trying to keep us safe. What can you say to people to help them do something differently when they're experiencing lack and scarcity around money, so that they're not contributing to this sort of global fear that's being manifested? What can you say to someone because, you know, you've said several times, you just stay in your own lane, right? You don't let all this other stuff, you stay in your lane because you know who you are and what you're doing here and where your alignment is. How can another person begin to develop the same kinds of skills where, okay, I gotta block that out. I can't be gripping so tightly on what I have because that's going to block money energy.
Well, what I would suggest that anybody listening do is this. You don't need to go and spend your money. You know, you don't even need to, even though we're keeping this about money. Money is a happy byproduct of alignment, which means that if you're in alignment, the money will come. The money will just come if you're in alignment. So what does alignment look like? That's the key. What does alignment look like? So the definition of alignment that I use is you do you. You do you 100% of the time, 100% unapologetically from a place of love. And that place of love usually starts with self-love if one is in a situation where they're in fear or lack or any of the more negative emotions that a human being is available for. Okay, you're going to start with self-love. It's always going to come from there. And then what I would say is, remember that money is energy. Everything is energy and money is energy. And money is a happy byproduct of alignment. So think about if you had the money that you wanted, how would you feel? Like you don't have to think too big. You could just think to yourself, if I went out and I don't know, I got a lottery scratch card and I won, I don't know, 50 quid or £1,000 or whatever on a lottery scratch card today. If £1,000 found its way to me, or whatever the number it is that would just have you feeling better about your life so that you could breathe. What is that amount? And when you think about getting it, how does it make you feel? What are you going to do with it when you get that money, and how is it going to make you feel? And then when you've identified how it's going to make you feel, give the feeling that you've got a name. So name it. And what I mean by that is if you're sitting there and you're like, right, okay, oh, if I just open my bank account and just realize that there was £1,000 in there that I didn't know was there, that would make me feel so much better. How would I feel? Oh, I feel relieved, content. Maybe you'd feel excited. Maybe you'd be full of joy. Maybe you'd feel free to go out and buy a Chinese takeaway or something. I don't know, whatever it is, because energy is subjective. So you need to find how that money is going to make you feel, right? And then once you've named that, that's the frequency. So as soon as you name that emotion, that's the frequency. Now, money, it naturally vibrates at a frequency of freedom. Freedom and responsibility. We won't worry about the responsibility part today because it'll take us down a rabbit hole. But let's focus on the freedom part. Money vibrates naturally at a frequency of freedom. Why? Because when you've got money, you've got freedom. When you've got money, you've got more choices that you can make. And that's the key part, because human beings are designed to create their lives. They're designed to live lives of abundance, and they're designed to create their lives through choice and consequence. Human being makes a choice. Choice has a frequency. Frequency is the language of the universe. Universe reads the frequency that the human is vibrating at and says, yes, here you are, have a consequence that matches the frequency that you're vibrating at. Right? That's manifesting. That's how you manifest. That's how everyone's manifesting every minute of every day. Usually, though, manifesting what they don't want versus what they do want. So as soon as you identify the energy underneath why you want the money that you want. And then you ask yourself, what can I do that feels like that already? What can I do that freedom is one of the most popular energies that when I'm working with my clients and I ask that question of them, I'll take them on a little meditation to go and find that energy. And freedom is the one that comes up the most often. And freedom and money energetically are like best buds. They're really good friends, right? But freedom is the opposite of obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Because obligation represents everything you think you've got to do. Got to, must do, have to, should do. Every time you do something during the day that you feel, oh, I've got to go and do that. I've got to go and do this. I've got to go to the grocery store and buy spaghetti because I haven't got any and I want spaghetti bolognese. I've got to go. I have to go. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Or every time you actually go and do the things that you are feeling that way about, including your 9-to-5 job or whatever it is that you spend most of your time doing every day, you're vibrating obligation. And the universe reads the frequency of obligation and it says yes, and it brings you more ways and more things that you have to do. And if you're spending all your time in that frequency, you're vibrating obligation, you're not vibrating freedom. And if you're vibrating obligation and you're not vibrating freedom because they're the opposite of each other, you're not a vibrational match for money because money vibrates freedom. So identify the energy underneath what you want money for. Give it a name so that you're familiar with what that looks like to you. And then ask yourself how you can go and do more of that frequency. So, for example, if it were freedom, you could ask yourself, okay, well, what am I doing at the moment that I'm telling myself I really do have to do, but actually I don't have to do it at all? And that could mean that you have to have a tough conversation with somebody else because you're feeling like you have, maybe you feel obligated to go to your friend's house for dinner because you do it every month. You go and visit your friend every month. And the whole time you're there, they do nothing but complain about the economy and the government and all the things that they do. And you're there and you're like, God, I just wish this night would end and I could just be at home in my slippers watching, I don't know, Friends or whatever it is. And you're sitting there having this meal, having all of your energy drained by all this junk. You're doing obligation and you're doing sacrifice right there, that whole time you're there. So what if you decided that you weren't going to do that this weekend and you told your friend that you weren't going to do that this weekend? And instead you stayed at home and you put your slippers on and you poured yourself a glass of red and you sat and binge watched Friends and just hang out with your dog or your kid or your husband or your wife or whatever instead and had a good old laugh with them. And that would be you choosing freedom for you. I am free to stay at home and do what I want to do. Or maybe it would bring you joy, in which case you'd be vibrating joy. And the universe would say yes, and it would bring you more ways that you could do joy. So the next day you might find that you get a phone call from somebody that you haven't heard from in ages, and they say to you, hey, I'm going to be in the neighborhood next week. Do you fancy coming out for a beer? And you're like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. And that's how the universe works. And then it will bring you money so that you can go and do joy. So you don't have to focus on, in fact, focusing on the money when there is no money is not the way to get yourself out of the doldrums. You find other, like time, managing your time in an energetically aligned way, doing more things that feel like the energy that you want money for. That is where you're going to get the big bang for your buck and where you're going to be able to start seeing things change in your life, and things would change very, very quickly.
And I really think that's an important distinction, is that I find a lot of people talk about wanting more money almost for the sake of just having more money. But really, if we pause long enough and really consider, it's really more about what would money allow me to do.
Yeah,
That's the more important
yeah.
thing, you know? And
Money's
when we talk
creation.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, we talk about freedom, it's that the freedom comes from, okay, if I have more money, then maybe I don't have to be working 60 hours a week. If I have more money, then maybe I can hire someone to cut the lawn. That frees up a couple of hours each week that I'm not cutting the lawn. So money, it's not necessarily money for money's sake. It's about, you know, and this is where I think ties into what you're talking about, doing the things that are at that
Mm.
joyful level or the energetic level that you want more of. It's not money for money's sake. It's that money then will give you more options and more resources and the ability to do more.
Exactly, which is why the universe will deliver the money so that you can do it. Like, human beings assign value with their money. Money's energy, it's just a tool. It's a very sacred thing because it allows a human being to do its own divine self-expression. Human beings spend money on that which they value.
Yeah,
Money
true.
represents value. You know, we spend our money on things and experiences that are going to enhance our lives, our human existence. So when you actually choose a human existence that is fulfilling, that brings you joy, just spending an hour a day doing it, like doing and allowing yourself to do an activity that maybe you've stopped yourself doing because you don't have enough time or you don't have enough money, finding a small version of that will actually broadcast that frequency to the universe. So the universe will bring you more money so that you can go and create some more of that frequency. Money is creational energy because human beings are designed to create. We do that through the process of choice and consequence. When we've got money, we've got more choices. Therefore, money is creational energy.
And I know you've spoken many times. This is something that really landed with me when I heard you say it the first time, which was that if there's an area in our life, so let's say it's money is the challenging area, since we're talking about that today. If you don't see a way right now for how you can make that better, there could be another part of your life. Maybe it's your relationship, maybe it's your physical health and wellness, you know, where you do feel good, where you can do things that make you feel really fantastic and expanded and elevated. Do more of that, because that energy has a way of, there's a ripple effect that it will spread out and impact those other areas of our lives as well. So doing
That's it.
more of what puts you in the state that you ultimately want to be in, joy, happiness, free, you know, in love, whatever it is, give that more attention and energy. And then what can happen almost by magic, except it isn't, it's just the consequence, isn't it, of a
Yeah.
choice, it will then start showing up in the other area or areas that aren't going so well.
That's exactly right. I call it leveraging the law. You're
That was
leveraging
the word, leveraging, yeah.
you're leveraging universal law to create more of what you want. And yeah, it's a ripple effect. The one thing I want to add to that though, that is so important, and this is where people fall down, particularly those people that are trying to master manifesting. This is where people fall down. Happy thought thinking does not cut it. It is no good thinking about what the frequency is that money's going to bring you when you get it and doing all the things you hate doing and pretending it feels good. That is not what we're talking about. A change of attitude is not what we're talking about because, like I said, your thoughts don't become things. It's the actions and the frequency of the actions that the universe is reading and reacting to. The universe is reacting. It's reactive and it will react to everything you do, not everything you feel and not everything you think. So if you go around still doing, like, if you went to your friend's house instead of saying to your friend, you know what, I'm just going to skip it this week. I just really want to hang out with my family or hang out with my dog and, you know, have a glass of vino on my own and just recharge my batteries. I'll see you in a month or whatever. If you felt that you couldn't have that tough conversation and let your friend down, or whatever it is that would stop you doing what you genuinely wanted to do, and you went to your friend's house anyway, but you thought, oh, as long as I feel happy about it, if I just pretend, this feels really good, this is really a laugh, every now and again we have a really good night, and ha 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 ha, that is not gonna work. That does not work, because the truth is the frequency of obligation. That's the truth. And the universe will read the frequency of obligation. Like, you can't lie. You can't BS the universe. You can BS yourself and you can BS everyone else, but you cannot BS the universe. So it's absolutely key that, like, your life, if you want your life to look different, you have to choose to make your life different. Like, you have to make the choices that start to have your life looking different. And it's going to require a little bit of effort, and it's going to require a little bit of faith and a little bit of trust, but it happens very quickly. And it may not require anywhere near as much trust and as much faith and as much courage and as much effort as you think it's going to. You'd be amazed at how quickly the universe can bring you more of what you want, just by having one tough conversation with someone.
And regardless of what's going on in the economy.
Regardless of what's going on in the world.
Yeah, it's available at all times.
Exactly. And the more people that did that, if more people did that, then that would be the frequencies that were being added to the planet. And then we would all start to see the collective consciousness changing and shifting in our favor.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, I know you've got some tools, and you've got this lovely freebie called the Wheel of Money Alignment.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, all it is a very simple PDF. And basically my Wheel of Money alignment is a wheel that is broken into the 3 commodities of alignment that I talk about, which are money, time, and you. Yeah, money, time, and you. And there's a scoring system. So there's it's like a little quiz. There's a multiple choice questions on all the different commodities of alignment. And then you add up your score at the end, and you'll be able to see which life area needs the work for now. And I put my hand on my heart and say that you'll be amazed that honestly, it's very rarely money. Money is very, very rarely the problem. Why? Because money is the last piece of tangible evidence that drops in that you're in alignment, which must mean that the misalignment is happening beforehand. And where are the areas that you can actually affect money flow outside of money in and of itself? Managing time in an energetically aligned way, and managing your own self-worth and your own self-value, not from a place of shifting your mindset, but from a place of understanding what you valuing yourself looks like when you're making choices that broadcast your value. So those are the 2 areas, and that can start with the relationship with yourself, which you have absolute choice over. Nobody else can interfere with that. So that little quiz will show you what area to focus on. It'll give you a couple of ideas as well on what you can start to do. If you sign up for that, you'll immediately get the opportunity to sign up for a couple of bonuses where I will actually there's a training video where I will actually take you through the entire PDF and give you some background information as well, teach you some stuff that isn't actually on the PDF. And if you want to, you can even come and have a chat with me so that we can dive into your stuff and I can really show you what I believe are going to be the next steps that are going to open up your money channels really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's free.
And it's free. Such a powerful tool. I've seen it, I've gone through it. It's amazing. And certainly the work that you do with clients is around those three areas: money,
Yeah,
time, and you.
absolutely.
So foundational. And I'm very familiar with that work as well. So for anyone that's considering getting some support, whether it's money or just sort of generally you're not getting the results you want in your life, oh, this is, to have a chance to work with Karen, to be part of her community, it's so amazing. It's so uplifting. She makes it fun,
Mhm.
and she's just such a generous human. I love everything you're doing, Karen. And
Likewise.
just want to thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the time you've taken today. It's been so amazing. I think a few of the takeaways for me, and hopefully our audience, certainly this idea that it's not just about thinking our way to abundance. It's about our choices and the actions we're taking. No question about that. And I'd be curious to know how many people are now thinking about spaghetti bolognese for dinner tonight. uh, so thank you for that as well. Karen, it's always amazing talking to you. Thank you so much. I learn something every single time we have a conversation. You're just such a bright light, and I'm so grateful that there are people in the world like you. You're making a difference. And I really, really encourage our listeners and our viewers to reach out, get a hold of that Wheel of Money alignment. It's amazing. And do reach out to Karen. I mean, when things are challenging financially, it's not a time to contract and go into scarcity and fear. Is a time to double down on the support you need to break away from that and experience the kind of freedom that Karen's been talking about with me today. So you won't regret it. You will not regret it. Karen, absolute delight as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Kip. It's always a pleasure. You make it so easy.
Good. I'm glad. Thank
Thank
you.
you, darling. You take care. Thanks, everyone.